Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the 80s version of the Twilight Zone. And it's actually the last episode of the season because the order on my DVD is weird. So I have a few more episodes to go, but the father and son game is the last episode of the third season of the 80s Twilight Zone. And Darius is the 79-year-old. He is played by Ed Marinario, I think his name is. He used to be like a football player and also actor. He has a very sort of imposing physical stature. I like it. He fits perfectly as a sort of grander than life person in this. They have floppy disks. I mean, it's the 80s. Floppy disks used to be a thing. Yeah. So, the doctor has this very weird idea that they have, the person is stored on some sort of disks and then miniaturized and yada yada, and then you digitize them. Like, how is he storing them on a digital media, because the CDs and floppy disks are all binary, then digitize them? I think they just used that word without actually looking into what that was or what that entailed. There's a picture of a monorail. I think that's the one in Vancouver, because this was shot there, I think, or at least parts of it. It could just be stock footage as well, but I've actually ridden on the one in Vancouver. He starts repeating himself, which is, of course, our version of coughing means death. You have to have some sort of signal that something is wrong, and him repeating himself is that clue. There's printer paper with holes in it. Now, for those of you who are not quite as old as I am, you might not know what that is. So, Matrix printers, the first sort of computer printers that were available, they didn't have a roller to feed the paper out. That wouldn't smush on the ink and stuff. It didn't dry quite as quick as laser or inkjet do nowadays. So instead, you would have it sort of free-floating a bit. And on the outsides, you'd have these two wheels with little, I wouldn't say spokes, but knobs that would grip into these holes and feed the paper in and out. Which is how it was done. And then you peeled off the sides. And you got these long strips with bunches of holes in them. I remember having printers like that. This episode, in all, sort of reminds me a lot of A Measure of a Man, which is a Star Trek episode in which you have to prove that Data is a sentient being. And in the end, he turns into a sort of informational life form. Sort of like the lawnmower man of the movie of the same name. I'm not sure they pull it off, but it's fine. The idea of living forever and revitalizing yourself and reincarnating yourself is very fitting for a final episode of the Twilight Zone, because this show just keeps on reinventing itself. So it went from the 60s to the 80s to the 2000s and then again in 2020 or 19. It just keeps reinventing itself. It's just coming back because it's such a fun concept. The next episode is Room 2426, which stars Dean Stockwell. Now, Stockwell had 204 acting credits to his name, I think. So, including Battlestar Galactica, where he plays Brother Colville. Star Trek Enterprise, where he refused to wear makeup, so he only has a little tiny thing in the middle of his forehead. He's in Air Force One with Harrison Ford. He's in Quantum Leap with the guy who played Archer in Star Trek Enterprise, of course. He's in Dune as Dr. Yui, and he is in a previous Twilight Zone episode called The Quality of Mercy, which starred Leonard Nimoy. Lots of Star Trek tie-ins here, but a very, very long and distinguished career. He did a lot of good work. So, there's an over-the-shoulder shot where they're talking, and you can tell that this is mismatched because the lines coming out of the person you see the back of the head of are not matching up to the motion of the jaw. That happens a lot, but it just caught my eye. There's a lot of sort of Unimatrix idea here that they're projecting themselves away. Now they're supposed to do it physically, but the idea of moving your mind to a safe spot is kind of works. The actual reveal of him pulling the curtains aside and just seeing speakers on the wall just reminded me a lot of the end of the first Avenger movie, where Captain America does the very same, and he sort of realizes that he's not when he's supposed to be. Now, help me out here because I can't remember the idea of the false prisoner thing. There are several like this, of course. There's one in Babylon 5, and there's several others. But there is one that I keep thinking of, in which someone is placed in a cell with a female prisoner who is slowly being surgically altered to look like the enemy. And they're like, oh no, they're turning me into one of them. And they form a connection, and he betrays a secret to her. And in the end, it turns out that they're actually not turning her into the enemy, whatever they are. They're turning her back. So she has been on an infiltration mission, and this is her returning to her normal form. Now, I can't recall where this is from. I just recall the line, they're turning me back. It could be Space Above and Beyond. I don't think it's Star Trek, but I don't remember. I don't ask for subscribes, likes, or comments, but here I'm asking for a comment. If you know this episode, please do tell me. And we'll be hopping on to next week's episode, and I look forward to seeing you then. Take care now. Bye.